Good evening. I am here to provide an equity update on restorative practices to the Board of Education. During the winter of 2021, district leaders, including myself, Dr. Sarah Clarity, and Janet Thomas, along with principals at the secondary level and including 3 elementary school principals from C.H. Byrd, Meadowview, and Westside, we were all trained by Dr. Tom Kavanagh and his team from Restorative Justice Education. On November 21st at the board meeting, Assistant Superintendent of Teaching, Learning, and Equity, Stephanie Leonard-Whitty, shared that we began this work in our system. We added 3 elementary schools. Our reason for doing that was because we simply had 3 additional seats available to us, and through a simple ask, Westside, C.H. Byrd, and Meadowview all expressed an interest to participate in the training. So our why. Our current behavior and discipline data indicates that our Black and Brown students are suffering the most. They are more likely to receive referrals and face exclusionary practices and disciplinary consequences, and our commitment to disrupt inequities that contribute to the school-to-prison pipeline for our students. Our commitment to social-emotional wellness for all students, including through instruction and strategies that prioritize the whole child. We understand that learning and implementing restorative justice practices that includes community building circles, repairing the harm circles, and alternatives to discipline that result in students out of class and school will lead to more equitable outcomes for all students, and in particular for our Black and Brown students. Further, it is important that we engage in a process that focuses on the restoration and harm when a previously established relationship or connection has been broken or compromised. This work, restorative justice implementation, will represent a positive change and positive culture and a positive culture shift across our system. This is a multi-year system-wide implementation plan that is researched and evidence-based to improve students' school experience and decrease the disciplinary consequences. During the 2021-2022 school year, the school district refreshed our strategic plan in collaboration with our community, and our commitment to continuous improvement has evolved with more significant focus on equity. This slide includes our recent updated strategic plan that spans from the 2022 through the 2027 school year. It includes our equity framework and our instructional framework. We partnered with ICS and participated in an equity audit and equity evaluation. While there were no surprises from the evaluation, it did reveal the need for our continuous commitment to racial equity work within our system, and that it is necessary for us to continue to work to dismantle racial inequities in our policies, practices, behaviors, and actions. In response to the equity evaluation findings, district leaders, including myself, developed an equity assessment strategic plan that included implementation of restorative justice education beginning in the 2022-2023 school year. Back in July of 2019, the Board of Education charged the district administration with developing a district-wide task force on student behaviors and bullying. The purpose was to, 1, understand our data and contributing factors in order to identify key issues, and 2, to examine the current prevention response reporting, monitoring, and communication practices. Of the 36 recommendations lifted by the task force, 7 of them were recommended as priorities for immediate action, including exploration of restorative practice training. Joining me for this screencast and presentation, I have 3 of our restorative justice coaches who helped to put this screencast together. They include Deontay Pruitt, Carrie Lundquist, and Elizabeth Hardy.
Greetings, my name is Deontay Pruitt, and I am the Restorative Justice coach at Patrick Marsh Middle School. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak to the board and to the broader community of Sun Prairie. I really appreciate it, thankful for it. You know, in year 1 of my position here, our journey at doing restorative justices at Patrick Marsh has been pretty good so far. You know, we're still in the first stages, you know, doing our community building, you know, mostly for the most part, which is the foundation for everything, so the kids can get used to, how the practices work, circles, the protocol, how we use the talking piece, and then that's once they get used to those kind of things, then we're able to tackle tougher issues, and repair harm to the community. Some highlights so far. I think SP 30 in our SP 30 classes, they're happening twice a week, community building circles. So the students are getting familiar with each other. They're creating that sense of belonging. And, we're just learning about our diverse student population and developing those strong relationships, which is very important, as you all know, to a student's success, and also to be able to redirect them when the time is needed. So just a small update is, like I said, we are picking up speed, as far as just doing restorative conversations and having circles, to restore problems, resolve harm. Right now, our community continues to work towards getting more familiar with each other, learning how the various practices work, and cultivating belief in the positive power and philosophy of restorative justice. So we have a ways to go to be fully immersed as a school, but we have a decent start. As far as, cultivating the belief in the power and philosophy of restorative justice, I think as a coach, I've been doing a lot of studying, and I think we all, as a community, need to be grounded in like the philosophy and what it's about, and to really understand and know that. So I want to touch base on that a little bit. So it's three major interconnected components of restorative justice. And the three are creating just and equitable learning environments, nurturing healthy relationships, and also repairing harm and transforming conflict. I want to hit on one of them. One of them is the first one is important. It's creating just and equitable learning environments. And I got a great example. Today at our school, we had one of our classes had what they call a cultural feast, and different cultures represented, and students brought dishes from their background, from their ethnic background, or what their parents made or they got from their grandparents. And it was just a great experience because, all of the students felt prideful. They felt, respected, that they was able to bring something from their culture into the class, and teach other people about themselves, and also learn about different cultures. So I just think it was a great thing. And that's what needs to happen on a more consistent basis, for us to really feel a connection, and for those students to feel a sense of belonging in that they are represented, and not just the mainstream culture. And along with those things, we got the core beliefs and values. And the most important one is the core beliefs of, like, every student is worthy of love and healthy relationships. I've always been, even when I was a student, I always knew the teachers that loved me and cared for me, and I always wanted to perform for them, and I always felt, a strong connection with them. And that's no different with the students nowadays. They need to really feel that connection and love and warmth from a teacher, and have that relationship, be interconnected. So I think that's just very, very important to keep in mind when we're dealing with all of our students, differences and all of that, right? The values connected with that is respect, dignity, and mutual concern. So, as far as respect, that's like putting yourself in somebody else's shoes and looking from things from their point of view. I think that's important. Sometimes, especially as staff, we kind of look at it from our side, as far as having, the influence and the power to make decisions. But it's also important to kind of put yourself in those students' shoes and understand where they're coming from, so you can connect with them also, and then so you can deal with them appropriately. It's just super important. The dignity piece is also very important for us to understand. Just, everybody is born with a certain level of dignity. It's like a birthright. You know what I'm saying? So in essence, we all should be able to have our dignity upheld, regardless of what we do. It's just super important. And it's a human need. And mutual concern is more than just a common concern between each other. It's more reciprocal and interconnected. A deeper concern, being that we're in this education realm together, and just making sure that we're really there for each other, deeper than the superficial levels. It's so important to connect with students that way. And I know this is a 5-year plan, and I know we're only in year 1 of implementation, and like I said, it's going well, but over time, I know this is what we're trying to get at, changing the mindset and the cultural shifts, right? And some tidbits I want to add on along to that, which is very important for us to keep in mind, is like, when a student does something in school, we're looking at it, we would like to look at it as a violation of relationships rather than the old school thought of a violation of a rule, right? Um, it's just important because, rules are rules and rules are made to be broken. But, when you're in a relationship, when you're looking at it like that, it's more deeper, it's more personal and relational. And you oftentimes, in my experience, you get a better response from students when they feel that connection other than just, you broke this rule. Now, what are we going to look in this handbook and kind of like, deal with it? It's more like we're bringing it to a relational, personal level in a caring way, Also looking at wholeness and healing rather than, just right and wrong, we definitely want to, deal with issues as they come and deal with them in an appropriate way, so consequences and things like that can be administered, right? But, we want to make sure that we're talking with both parties, the person who maybe harmed somebody and also the person who was harmed, so we can just be more holistic and get healing from both sides, so both parties can learn from it. Engagement rather than control. So, a lot of time as a staff, you got power, right, to wield over a student. And, oftentimes students didn't get a chance to express, their side of the story or to be engaged in a thoughtful conversation. And I think that's important, so instead of like, you're going to get this consequence and there's no say, if, ands, or buts about it, I think it's important to engage a student and ask probing questions to get their side and to kind of get to the underlying issue of, of what's going on with them. And this forms a better, more, authentic connection with each other, which is what we're looking for. And finally, the need for healing and justice rather than a student getting what they deserve. It's just, that's more punitive. That saying, getting what they deserve, and we want to, like heal. We want justice, obviously, but we want to make sure that each person is able to express themselves and be heard, and that sense of belonging is still kept intact, regardless of if you harm the community. And that's why we offer a chance to transform that, right? And through all of this, I kind of mentioned this before, but our focus, should be repairing harm rather than punishment, because we're getting away from the punitive. Mr. Morgan already talked about the why, and the prison, the pipeline, and all of that stuff. We all kind of know about it and steeped in that background information, but also just showing concern for each person involved. The person that harmed somebody needs to be taught valuable lessons, and also the person that was harmed needs to be able to express themselves and maybe let the other person know how they felt. And we can just, communicate with each other in that way to bring it more on a personal level. And just to let you know, the source where I got a lot of these information from is, our trainer, Dr. Tom, he referenced this book, and it's called The Little Book of Restorative Justice in Education by Catherine Evans and Dorothy Vandering. And it's a great resource. I would advise people to pick it up if you can. It's a great read, and it really goes deeper into the philosophy of restorative justice and what we're trying to do out here in Sun Prairie. Once again, thank you for giving me your time to speak, and I'm looking forward to doing it again.
Hi, I'm Carrie Lundquist, and I'm the Restorative Practices Coach at Prairie View. I'm here to give a brief overview of how it looks, restorative practices are looking at Prairie View. So at the whole school level, we're kind of in the early stages of building capacity for our teachers and students. So we're really focusing on community circles and building community within our classrooms and using the restorative practice framework to help continue that community building throughout the year. On the next level, our student services and administration team have been trained fully in restorative practices. So they're using those practices to repair and restore once harm has occurred. Some highlights are that we have weekly and community circles in our SP30 block. We have begun to infuse restorative practices into our PBIS and social emotional learning. We have a process of restorative conversations and restorative reflections that happen in the classroom level, so teacher to student, using the restorative practice framework. Then we are starting to implement a way for teachers and students to request restorative services. So teachers are able to request either a whole class circle or a circle for student to student or student to teacher. And then students are also starting to request that as well. Finally, we have restorative practice training infused into our professional learning throughout the year. So by the end of the year, our entire staff will be trained in restorative practices, along with building their capacity for what that looks like at our building. Since our implementation at the beginning of the year, some updates are that 41% of our behavior resolutions are restorative. If there's an incident involving 2 or more students, students are given the chance and encouraged to work through a restorative conversation that is facilitated by myself or another member of student services. Also, we are having about 4 to 6 requested practices per week. So that's kind of a proactive request by either teacher or student. Some outcomes are that students are learning to advocate for themselves and practicing their communication skills through these conversations. Conflict is being avoided because students have the opportunity to work through conflict before it escalates. We have students beginning to ask for these circles, which is so wonderful. They're advocating for themselves. And then as far as our behavior data, our physical and verbal altercations have dropped this month since we've really started to pick up the restorative practices in our building. Looking forward, we want to continue to infuse our practices and circle models. We want to infuse the language into all aspects of Prairie View. And then we will start to begin to have our student leadership team take on some ownership of our community circles and start to learn how to facilitate conversations when harm has occurred.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Hardy. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I'm the Restorative Practices coach at Central Heights.
My name is James Edison. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm the Restorative Practice Liaison at Central Heights Middle School. Things are going really well at Central Heights. As you know, it is a new school for our students and many of our staff. We have been focusing on culture and care and getting to know our community better.
Yes, when Mr. Edison is not busy running restorative circles and conversations, he is checking in with students in their classes, hanging out with them at recess, being the advisor for Black Student Union, and coaching the 7th grade boys basketball team. He is so loved and has had such an impact on the students and staff here at Central.
Thank you, Ms. Hardy. I appreciate all your mentorship and leadership around the restorative practices. We really do make a good team. One of the highlights was for the first 2 weeks in our SB 30 classes, we had community circles every day.
Then on our 3rd week of school, we had this big assembly so each SB 30 class could introduce the values that they had co-created and will be using during all of their community circles.
They also learned about RJ guidelines we will use in every circle we have at Central, like community building circles, problem solving circles, or staff training circles.
All of our staff and students have learned and used some of the components of RJ circles, like the talking piece, centerpiece, guidelines, values. Another highlight is that we recently took a survey, and one of the questions asked students if they feel that SB 30 is helping them build community with their classmates. And 80% said that they agree or strongly agree.
In our next 100-day plan, we are asking students to create their own community building circle scripts and lead them.
James and I have done 62 problem-solving conversations in circles since the beginning of the year. That number doesn't even include the many conversations that other staff are having. We have restorative justice conversation posters posted all over the hallways and in every classroom. So those are happening often. The circles take a little bit longer, and they include a pre-conferencing so we can get an understanding of what each person's story is. And occasionally there will be a person who doesn't want to be in a circle, and then we have to figure out agreements and how to move forward without doing the circle. Remember, restorative practices are always voluntary. When we do a circle, we usually meet again 5 to 10 days later to see how the agreements are holding up.
While we try to solve most of our school problems by making amends for the harm that has been done, there are also times when a punitive consequence is needed. When this happens, we try to pair the consequence with the restorative practice in the hopes of meeting needs and repairing relationships.
Another thing we're proud of is the equity work that we are doing with staff. We are learning ways to communicate and relate with our students while addressing our own biases, and so we can disrupt the school to prison pipeline and also use less exclusionary practices.
We appreciate the effort that Sun Prairie School District has been bringing RJ practices and coaches into the school. We also look forward to the future and having our students work as circle keepers, peer problem solvers. Thank you.
So again, during the 2022-2023 school year, our 3 middle schools began year 1 of implementation, and 3 elementary schools piloted the restorative justice education implementation. For the 2023-2024 school year, our 3 high schools, Sun Prairie East, Sun Prairie West, and Prairie Phoenix Academy, along with the 3 elementary schools, will move into year 1 of implementation, which means that they will be working during the winter and spring to repurpose an FTE for a restorative justice coach. Our 3 middle schools will be moving on to year 2, which is continued implementation. And our work ahead is to onboard the remaining schools, and that's anticipated to happen between 2024 and 2026. I just want to thank you all for listening to this presentation and for all of your continued support.